believe in the possibilities that are available to you in the world and believe that you're fully capable in achieving what you put your mind to, you have the power to change what seems unchangeable.
Welcome to Unleash Your True Value, a Breaking Money Silence podcast where professional women flip the script on self-doubt, ditch the discount mindset, and start owning their worth like the rock stars they are. Each episode is packed with real talk, practical tips, and the occasional mic drop to help you charge what you're worth and earn what you truly deserve. So buckle up, grab your coffee, because it's time to unleash your true value and make some noise while you're at it. Now, here's your host, Kathleen Kingsbury.
Today, I'm with Jillian Berry. She serves as the Senior Director for StrongHer Money at RFG Advisory, where she empowers financial advisors to effectively engage and build deeper relationships with female clients. Jillian and I met recently, a couple months ago, at a conference, and we hit it off. I love her expertise and certainly her and RFG's commitment to better serving women in the field, which we know I'm a big proponent of. She has expertise in business planning, development, strategic growth initiatives, and Jillian actually drives the execution of programs that support advisors' success. In her role, she specializes in conducting market research, building financial practice models, developing brand strategies, overseeing program life cycles, and creating sales enablement tools. She's kind of the woman behind the curtain. Maybe I'll start calling her Oz. Jillian is also, in her free time, pursuing a PhD in business management, specializing in strategy and innovation. And here's why I wanted her on the podcast, other than she's an awesome, powerful woman who's unleashed her true value, her career started in the fashion industry, making her an excellent example of how women from other industries can really add value and excel in finance. Welcome, Jillian, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. One of the things, we talked about so much when we met in person the couple of times we have connected, but we didn't really drill too much down into your fashion career. And I was very intrigued, as I'm sure other people will be, as to how did you go from fashion to finance? Because typically that isn't the route that most people take. Now, I didn't end up in my job for a traditional route either, but I'm really curious. What inspired you to make that switch?
Yeah, so like most career changers into the finance industry, it tends to be by happenstance. And for me, during COVID, I was working globally as a fashion designer. And when the world stopped, so did my job. I really had to scramble to figure out what to do next. And a role popped up that happened to be within my creative skill set and really worked alongside my business strategy skill set. And I realized that it was going to be so much harder to find another role during COVID that really aligned to the fashion industry at that time, because we just didn't know how long that was going to impact global travel and impact all the production and all the things that I was used to working with. And so I took the role as a principal product designer. And what that role is, it's for user interface and user experience design for technology. And so I just happened to fall into this role, which happened to be in the finance industry. It was definitely a jump of faith, because I had never really thought of myself being in a finance industry, and I had never saw myself working in tech, but it just happened to be such a great fit that it worked out.
And what's so interesting, two things. One is that, the financial services industry, if we think stereotypes, is pretty conservative. And
Yes.
while it's getting more creative, I think, creativity sometimes is squashed by compliance. Sorry to pick on compliance, but often some of the really creative ideas just aren't going to fly from a legal standpoint. And then with fashion, I think, all the creativity and it's out there. And so what was it like to go from a field where there's so much creativity to a field that's much more conservative. Or maybe that isn't how you experience it at all.
Yeah, so definitely on the surface level, when you compare both industries, it's very much so. Fashion is so creative, and we see the finance industry as kind of being archaic and, monotonous. But when I found myself in a new industry and I started to realize the power that was kind of in my hands in terms of there was so much space in the blue ocean of problems to solve. The industry, when I first jumped into it, still had so much room to grow for financial technology. And we look also at the statistics in the industry with 80% male advisors. And so there's a lack of diversity in the industry. And so there's so many spaces that I all of a sudden realized I had influence on, and just an endless opportunity to create solutions that meant something and that were valuable to the end user.
And so, did you start off in the industry as an advocate for women in wealth? And I understand that's, men and women advisors, or however they identify, better serving female clients and their families. Or is that something that evolved over time? Because I know now you're really a champion for that cause.
Yeah, so when I first stepped into the industry, I worked for a company that advocated for other growth in the industry and very focused on moving the industry forward in a different way than focusing on women. And so I still felt like I had a purpose there as well. And then I have, throughout my education, have just been so hyper focused on female in leadership and excelling in business and female entrepreneurship, that has always been a passion of mine as well. And so when I saw my current role become available, it would just really married my passion for driving change in the industry, but also using my passion to better serve women and to bring more visibility to women in the industry. It really connected both of those pieces together for me.
And what's funny, and I don't think I've shared this with you, Jillian, when I saw
Yeah,
that post, I thought,
yes,
oh, I wish it was 15 years ago.
right.
I just thought, what a cool position that you have.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, it's an honor and kind of fun to get to know you and see your growth and see the program grow, without having to do all the heavy lifting that you're doing, I'm sure, behind the scenes. You
Definitely.
know, I've always believed that some of the best advisors and leaders in our industry come from outside the industry. Not to say that people that rise up through the ranks aren't valuable as well, but I think that different perspective. When you think about the transferable skills that you brought from the fashion world into your current role as the senior director of StrongHer Money, what are those transferable skills? And, it seems like you were able in the job description initially with the first company you work with, and then the second to be like, okay, I can help them make the leap. But tell us, what were those transferable skills, and how do you use those skills today in your current position?
Yeah. So I also like when I think about a role that I want to step into, I'm very intentional about taking roles that involve business strategy and design. I'm very much in both worlds. And one of the most valuable transferable skills that I personally feel like I've developed is taking my design skill set and using business strategy together. So what that looks like for me is working with senior, executives and co-founders and CEOs, taking time to work with them on the business strategy side, but then using my creative skill set to translate that into something tangible. So at the heart of it, I'm always focused on creating something that fills a real gap in the market. And I'm really focused on whether that's fashion or finance or tech. There's this process of translating a vision and making it connect to the value the end user is seeking and connecting that to the what the business is trying to convey. And so being able to marry both the skill set of business strategy and design literally translates to any role that I have carried, whether that's fashion or finance.
And what's really interesting to me and what your career trajectory shows is that you can be a woman in finance and not necessarily have to be in a financial advising or planning role, that there are other opportunities to rise up through leadership and make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so let's turn to your advocating for advisors to do a better job in serving women. Now, I've been advocating for that along with some other people for almost 2 decades, despite the fact that I'm so young.
Yeah.
um, and while, I feel like there's some progress that has been made, so we're not exactly where we were when I started in 2007, 8, 9, I do feel like in some ways it's a little bit of Groundhog Day, where a lot of reports are being released about the great wealth transfer and women taking control of money and, leaving their advisors after the death of their spouse and building businesses. And I thought, wow, I wrote a book called How to Give Financial Advice to Women. It came out, I believe, in 2010. And not a lot has really shifted in terms of the case for why we need to do a better job. So, what do you think it is that makes RFG Advisory and the program that you're integral in developing called StrongHer Money different from what we've done in the past? Because I would love to see the needle move in a positive direction and move like a big jump, not just these little nuanced jumps.
Yes, absolutely. So when stepping into this role, we are very clear that, and we are very like-minded on the idea that women are smart, they're capable, and they're deeply intuitive. And so at the end of the day, women just want to be served well, regardless of who the advisor is. So, what makes our approach unique is that we're not just acknowledging the gender gap in financial services, we're actually using that strategically. So, within the industry, we know the statistics. We know that 80% are male advisors. And so we made a very intentional decision at the beginning of this to design this program to be approachable for men. We want male advisors to feel equipped, not to just serve technical knowledge, but we want them to be able to do that with emotional intelligence and communication skills. And we want them to better understand women at every life stage. By doing that, we're shifting this prior mindset of that women need to be pulled up, and we're kind of changing that trajectory to they want collaborative partners. And so we're building a program for both male and female advisors, but we're building this strong allyship within this program. And we're building it so that we can start changing the way women experience financial advice. So, what that looks like is we're building a full ecosystem. We know that advisors, to be successful in this, they need the knowledge, they need the resources and tools, and they need a strong community behind them. And so, with the knowledge portion of that, we're focused on foundational training. So, that is training advisors on the female mindset, the female market, how to attract, win, and better serve women at all life stages. We're looking at how to be a thought leader in the industry. We're looking at how to build long-lasting relationships with your clients and looking at the psychology of space, the emotional side of money. We're looking at how to develop stronger connections with female clients, whether you already are serving them or you're looking to serve this specific market. But then we're also marrying that with one-on-one coaching. We're marrying that with intentional focus groups within the program. We're also building out case studies for each advisor to show the impact of this program and show how that's improving their organic growth and their overall incremental growth as they go throughout this program.
And so what I hear is that it's the depth and breadth of the program that is different. Because a lot of times in the
Yes.
past, not every firm, but some firms have kind of said, oh, we're going to have a conference for women, check. Or
Yes.
we're going to, recruit more women, but they don't necessarily get the support they need to be in the field. And often I know, because male advisors would come up to me and say that they, either left a workshop saying they felt bad about being a white male or they felt like it wasn't a program for them. And so what is interesting is when I did write that book, How to Give Financial Advice to Women, if anybody goes back and looks at the introduction, you will see it is written for the male advisor. Because I always
Yes.
felt like men in the field not only are 80% or 85, depending on where you're looking, it's not an either or, it's an and. And
Yes.
so I really love that approach, that it is very inclusive, and the fact that you're supporting that type of diversity, and that there's this, I truly, as a coach and someone who's received coaching throughout my career and really attribute that to some of my success, I love all the support that is behind the scenes. So it's not just, oh, here's a job aid for advisors, but like, let's go deeper. Am I understanding that correctly, Jillian, that that's part of what the value add is?
Yes, and then one thing I failed to mention is that we're also building these toolkits. So as the advisor goes through the program and they're not only doing the foundational training, but then once they pass the foundational training, they go into more of a targeted approach. So like, for example, if an advisor is serving women who are going through a divorce, well, in their toolkit, they have all these pre-designed turnkey assets that they can use for themselves, but they also have a client toolkit that provides financial literacy, it provides worksheets, it provides things that the advisor can actually utilize for their ideal client during all of those interactions. So it's not just the training program, it's not just the community, it's actual physical, tangible assets that they can use to really work and serve their clients well.
And I think one of the things, and I've been involved in developing some, not with your firm, but other firms, those assets. I think one of the things that is so useful is it frees advisors up to really work at the client relationship, as opposed to doing what is, say, in my area of expertise, which is, writing and developing content for that audience. So it's really about how do you free them up to work on that relationship and to feed them in different ways where then they can be successful. And so I can't wait to start seeing some of the case studies. When is this launching, by the way, or has it already officially launched?
Yes, so we are launching September 8th, and we're going to launch at Future Proof, at the Future Proof conference down in Huntington Beach.
Okay, for people who aren't in the field, some of us who are listeners are in the field and some of us aren't. Tell us a little bit about what Future Proof is so laymen
Yeah.
can understand. Yeah.
Yes. So the Future Proof Conference is a widely known conference in the industry, fairly large, and it focuses on, moving the industry forward. So we have a lot of focus on technology there. There's a lot of conference talks on diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's just so much in there in terms like the content in itself is a lot about pushing the industry forward. But then there's the other side of the conference where it's intentional on the way that you connect with other people in the industry. So they have a lot of things set up to build intentional one-on-one time with people that really connect to what you're focused on in the industry.
Is this also the conference that's like a lot of fun and on the beach, or am I thinking of another conference?
It sure is. It sure is. So
Now I'm
yes,
bummed I'm not going.
yes,
The beach might get me there, Jillian.
yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I hear that you're a speaker at that conference, and I wish I could be there with the launch. I will be there in spirit. But you clearly have gone from a successful career in fashion and now really a trendsetter in finance. And you're somebody that I see as a great example for women and men who are listening to this podcast, of someone who is able to unleash their true value. And even though that true value might be very different than what we think of a traditional candidate in the world of finance, you've kind of owned it and really made it your own. So I want to congratulate you on that, because I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
And we're going to switch gears a little bit. I ask all of the women that come on my podcast to answer two different questions that are a little off track from the topic. But I think it gives us some insight into the women who are able to stand in their true value, kind of take risks, what kind of makes them tick or motivates them. So I love this question. I of course came up with the question. So that's basically saying I like the question that I designed. But I'm curious, what is the craziest thing you've ever done to land a job?
Yeah, as soon as I heard this question, oh my goodness, like an answer immediately jumped out because this ties into when I moved from fashion to finance. COVID was happening. I have 4 children. I just recently lost my position. I lost my identity because I had been a fashion designer for most of my career, even in my teens. And so my whole life, just stopped in the sense of what do I do next? And when this role came up, I'm like, okay, I have to land this role. I have to do it. But at the time, I didn't fully understand what a product designer was. And I was like, well, I design clothing, I can design products. And so I sent over my portfolio to the recruiter. And of course, it had all of my different types of design I had ever done. And they responded back the next day of, oh, well, that's great. This looks amazing, but can you send over a portfolio for product design? And that's and I'll tell you, I'm very smart, but at the same time, sometimes I am so dense because at that moment, I looked up what a product designer was. And I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I just applied for a role for tech when I was thinking I was going to design physical products. So I was like, okay, I have to land this job. I have to land this job. And so I learned a whole new design program within like 24 hours. I had told the recruiter, I am so sorry. I accidentally sent you my wrong portfolio. And I spent 24 hours creating this mock portfolio to show my skill set that I can actually design technology products. And during that time, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to send it and whatever happens, happens. And I ended up having an interview with the CEO afterwards, and we just hit it off. And, I obviously let them know after I was hired that, by the way, but the great thing is, I feel like I adapt really quickly to my surroundings. I read every book I could get my hands on. I immersed myself in product design and all the things that are involved in psychological design and emotional design. So I literally went from 0 to 100 in 6 months, and we all laughed about it afterwards. But yeah, that's the craziest thing I've ever done to get a job.
It doesn't sound like you regret it. It sounds like you're glad you did that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And it really speaks, I think, to the determination and to the focus that anyone who meets you can pick up on. But that is really funny. At the end, you'd be like, I can design the product and I also can design everybody's outfits.
Yes. Yep. That was definitely a conversation for quite a while at the company. I'm like, can I design our swag? I need some fashion here.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I can't wait to see what StrongHer Money comes up with in terms of swag. But
yes.
The other question I like to ask, or just have someone complete this sentence. Complete the sentence, dare to be what?
Yes. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I will complete the sentence by saying dare to be uncomfortable. I really believe growth happens when we put ourselves in uncomfortable spaces and when we stretch our limits and even go out of the way of trying something we might not even think we're capable of. I believe that my biggest growth moments were when I was completely uncomfortable and out of my element. Yeah, that's my answer there.
So while I love that, and I certainly have done that in my career, I mean, I look back and I wrote a book, How to Give Financial Advice to Women, and I had been transferring from a counseling field and did have a business background, but I look back and I was like, wow, that was really naive, and I pulled it off and it worked out for me.
Yes.
But I'm channeling some of my group coaching or individual coaching clients because I can hear them saying, but Jillian, how did you deal with the anxiety?
Yes. That's a great question. I firmly believe everything's always going to work out the way it's meant to work out. And I don't jump into something without strategically thinking about the steps involved to get to the next place, or strategically thinking about how this is going to impact the longer term goal. But I do believe that a lot of steps that are bigger steps, whether that's in your career or life, you have to kind of step out in faith that things are going to land. And maybe they don't always land, but I do believe that there's so much to be learned when there's failure, or, when things don't turn out the way that you expect them to turn out.
Yeah, absolutely. And often, the people will tell us that women are risk averse, or that we're not really, and there is research to say that, like, we need to be 110% qualified to get a job, and it kind of
Yep.
proves that isn't necessarily true. And I know, just as you know, being a little uncomfortable actually and managing that anxiety, it sounds like for you, really what helps is your mindset. You're like, you know what,
Yes.
I'm going to land on my feet no matter what, even though I
Yes.
maybe feel anxious about it. And I encourage people who are listening that kind of stay stuck because of the anxiety. Anxiety isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could be you're about to do your next big, great thing. It's uncomfortable. It's not something you've done before.
Yes.
So I think that's a great piece of advice. But let me see, is there one other piece of advice in addition to that you want to leave audience members with today, knowing that the audience is made up of a lot of women in business, women advisors, as well as men who are their allies?
Yes, and I'm going to preface this with, I am a dreamer. I am somebody who just tends to think I can do anything, whether that's a great idea or a bad idea. So my advice is, yes, go after the things that are out of reach for you. Like, believe in the possibilities that are available to you in the world, and believe that you're fully capable in achieving what you put your mind to. You have the power to change what seems unchangeable.
I love that. That's a
Yeah.
great place to end. But before we
Yes.
completely end, Jillian, tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and also StrongHer Money.
Absolutely. Obviously, one of the easiest places to find me is on LinkedIn, Jillian Berry. You can also find a lot of great information about StrongHer Money at rfgadvisory.com. We have a full landing page on there describing all the things that we offer for our advisors at RFG Advisory who want to take part in the StrongHer Money Ambassador Program.
Yes. And so I will put all that in the show notes. And I just want to do a quick shout out. I know a lot of people at your firm, and a lot of great people working on this program. So definitely
Absolutely.
check out StrongHer Money program, and follow Jillian on LinkedIn, because who knows what the next big thing is she's going to do. So thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It's always a pleasure to chat and learn more about you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Unleash Your True Value. I hope you're feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to own your worth unapologetically. Remember, your value isn't up for negotiation. It's time to embrace it, amplify it, and let the world know exactly what you bring to the table. If you're ready to take things even further, you don't have to do it alone. As a money mindset and business coach, Kathleen specializes in helping professional women like you rewrite their money stories, step fully into their power, and take their businesses to the next level. Visit kbkwealthconnection.com to set up a free coaching discovery call. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and leave us a 5-star review. Until next time, ditch that discount mindset and unleash your true value like the rock star you are.